Okay, yes, yeah, we'll get started. Good afternoon, grade 11 CAT students. It's good to be here with you guys on this Tuesday afternoon. I hope that you guys are all surviving the lockdown and that you guys are keeping busy and that you're keeping on schedule in terms of your schoolwork. This platform is awesome for all of your subjects, so I encourage you guys to invite your friends, to invite any other students that you may know to join these platforms in order to stay on track in terms of your school work. We are busy at the moment tackling a section of work based on Microsoft Access. So if you have been here over the last few lessons, you would be familiar with the world of Access, and hopefully you by now are starting to grasp some of the concepts and starting to learn some of the key terms and features of Access that we are using. We are going to continue with Access for this week. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we'll be looking at various features that you will need to know for grade 11 and for grade 12. So the next 2 weeks are really like setting a solid foundation for you in terms of Access. So please, if you can, familiarize yourself with the concepts and go over these videos again, try some activities. Possibly if you look into your textbook as well, you can find some more activities to do. But if you do not have any activities or you're struggling with the section of work, please feel free to contact me, send me an email, and we can go over some concepts or we can look at ideas that you do not understand, and I'll give you some activities to do. So a reminder, my name is Alan Flint, and I will be doing the lesson for today. Okay, as mentioned previously, we are looking at the world of Microsoft Access. As you can see, Microsoft Access is that sort of red maroonish type icon over here that you see on your screen with a big A on it. This goes alongside Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, and Microsoft PowerPoint. What we are going to focus on today is specifically the section of work related to queries. So we're going to look at how to create queries. We've already covered this section. However, what we're going to do today is we're going to go into queries in a little bit more depth. So instead of just how to create a query, we are also going to look at how to edit a query in the design view. If you remember previously in the lessons that we looked at, we had a look at the datasheet view. Sorry, I think I got kicked off there for a minute or two. Rosette, am I back on? Sorry, Rosette, can you hear me? Am I back on?
Yes, you are back on,
okay.
sir.
Thanks. Sorry, guys. I just got kicked off there for a few minutes. Okay. So just to kind of give you an overview again, we are going to look at queries, how to edit queries, and looking at queries in the design view as well as the datasheet view. Please stop me if you have any questions, and I'll help you understand a question that you may have or a section that you don't understand. If you'd like me to do a specific example, I can try to do that as well. So just to kind of give you an overview again of what a query is used to display only certain records or fields in a specific table. So when we look at a database, again, a database could contain information and records of a large magnitude. Companies have got massive databases with loads of information, and it's almost impossible for us to sift through all this information and find what we're looking for. So what we'll do is we will create a query which helps us identify specific fields and specific records that we are looking for. Again, the records and the fields must be specified within the query, and we're going to look at that and just recap that today. And a reminder that the query can be saved. Unlike sorting and filtering, if you remember the sorting and filtering section of work that we did, sorting and filtering is basically like a temporary search for something that you are looking for. A query is something that is more permanent and can be saved. So going over this again, where do I create a query? If you go onto your data sheet view, you go into your create tab and then scroll to the right of the create tab and down, you will find something called the query wizard. And that is where we create a query. Marcus, do you have a question over there?
No, sorry, that was a mistake.
No problem. If you do have a question, more than free to open up and we can discuss it. Okay, so we go to the create tab and we click on the query wizard. Okay, what we are going to do now is we are going to go into a database and we are going to look at how to create a specific query. We're going to look at simple queries, and then we're going to look at creating more complex queries and how to look at them in the design view as well. Okay, so as you can see at the moment on my screen over here, I've got a database that is open. I am currently in my data sheet view. This is the data sheet that we were looking at yesterday. And you will notice that you've got a number of fields or columns in this data sheet field. In this data sheet view. You've got the ID field. You've got the ticket number field. You've got the first entry field. You've got the balance field. You've got the class field. And you have the number field over there. Those are all the fields that we have. There are just a few examples of the records that I have in this field. I have this record over here. I have this record over here. I have this record over here. This record, this record, this record, and a few other records as well. Okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to recap some of the ideas as well so that you guys can see just kind of how they work. What I'm first going to do is I'm just going to rename this to a different table name. So let me close it first. Do I want to save changes to the layout of the table pack? I say yes. And you'll notice that the table has now disappeared. And what I'm going to do from now is I'm going to rename the table. So I'm going to rename it to student ticket sales, so that it's sort of a more descriptive name that represents the data that can be found within the table. So if I double click over there, you can see that there's ticket numbers, there are first entry, there's a balance, there's classes, and there's numbers, and that's what I have. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add another field. One of the fields that I did yesterday is we deleted a field called the names. So I want to rename, or I want to add another field. Let's go over here. And I'm going to make it short text. Just want to check that that works. Yes. Okay, so I've got a name field over here, an extra name field, and I'm just going to add a few names over here. John, Sam. Okay, so what I've done now is I've added a few names over here to my database. Essentially what I've done is I've added a couple of more records over here into my table. Okay, what I'm going to do from now is I'm going to add a query into this table. So the first query that I'm going to create is I'm going to create a query that searches for the name of the student, as well as the class that they're in and the balance that they still owe. So what I want to do is I want to take out specific information, and I would like to get the name of the students, the class that they are in, and the balance. Now, I haven't selected any of these for a specific reason, but in your tests and in your exams, what a question will ask you to do is it will ask you to take out specific details from a database. So it will say, create a query from the student ticket sales table so that the name, class, and balance fields are displayed. And you need to know that you need to, from there, create a query and then make the name, class, and balance stand out. Okay. So just a reminder, what I need to do over here is I'm going to create a simple query. So I'm currently in my data sheet view. I'm going to go to create, just next to the home tab. I'm going to go to the right over here, and I'm going to create a query wizard. And just a reminder that you get different options over here. You don't need to know any of these ones over here. You don't need to know cross-tab query wizard, find duplicates query wizard, find unmatched query wizard. You simply need to know the simple query wizard. So I'm going to double click on that. I could have also clicked OK. It should appear now on the screen. Okay. What I'm going to do first is I need to select a specific table to create my query from. So where do I want to draw the information from? Now, a reminder that if you have more than one table within a database, you need to select the correct table. Currently on the left of my screen, you can see that I only have one table, which means that I can only select from that table. I can only take information from that. So I'm going to select that one. What I need to do from there is I need to identify the name. Now, in order to, these are the available fields. What I need to do is I need to take the available fields and select the three that the question is asking for. So I'm going to either double click on name, or I need to select the right arrow over here. So if I click on name, you'll notice that, and click on this arrow over here, the name field has now been selected. I can also take it back by clicking on this left pointing arrow over there, which means it's now deselected. Or I can double click on it and then double click on it over there as well to kind of move it across being selected and unselected. So a reminder that the question that that I was referring to, or the example that I was doing, was looking for the name, the class, as well as the balance that is due. So I've got the name, the class, and the balance that is due. And these are the fields that I'd like to identify in my query. So I'm going to click on next. Now it's asking me a question: would you like a detail or summary query? What we are going to do is we are going to click on detail. So it's going to show every field of every record. So I'm going to click on next. And then what title do you want for your query? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on, I'm going to make it something descriptive that describes exactly what's going to be found in my query. So I'm going to say name, class, and what was the other one? Balance. Okay, name, class, and balance. Maybe makes it a little bit more, makes a bit more sense. Name, class, and balance. Now what I can either do is I can open the query to view information, or I can modify the query. This just means you can edit the query after you open it, or this one over here is just going to open the query. You can select either one of these. It doesn't really matter. Just know that this one over here, you can then edit the query after you've made it, or it's just going to open the query to view the information. So for now, I'm just going to open it, and then I'm still able to edit it at a later stage. So I'm going to click on finish. And you'll now notice that underneath my table over here, I have a query, and that query is called name, class, and balance. And only the names, the classes, and the balance appears. That is a simple query that you need to know how to create. You can see over here that the query is still found in the data sheet view. You'll notice that I haven't changed my views yet. I'm still in the data sheet view. What we are going to do at a later stage is we are going to look at a query from the design view perspective. So not just the data sheet view over here. Okay. What I'm going to do over here is I'm just going to quickly go into my student ticket sales. I'm just going to add a couple of names over here. Let's go to okay, I'm just going to add a couple more names just so that we have them. Okay, so I've just got a couple more names. The reason why I just added a few names is so that it makes it more kind of realistic. Yeah, probably I did delete it at a later stage. Yeah. So Michaela's got a question. She says, hi, can we do a query, for example, to find a specific person's name and their balance? Yeah, so that's what we're going to do once we go into the design view. That's kind of the next section that we're going to. So it's a really, really good question, and we are going to get to that now in the design view. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create one more query just to kind of run through it again so that you do understand this. And then we are going to look at the query in the design view, and I'm going to look at specific features within the design view. Okay. So now over here, you can see that I created a few more names within the table. And if I go to my query, you'll notice that, well, here's my query over here. You'll notice that those names appear within the query as well. So if you edit data within a table, it's going to change within the query as well. And that's something that I think Michaela asked last week as well. So the data that is in the table is kind of like your original data, and the query, when you create it, will change according to what's in the table. Okay, so I'm just going to close these two over here, you'll notice that if I close it and I close it over here, it still appears on the left of the side of my screen, and I can edit it and open it whenever I want. It's basically just like running tabs that you can open, and right in the top over here you can have multiple tabs open with queries, forms, reports, multiple tables. It's easier to kind of I find it's easier to close one at a time and kind of work with one, and just have this navigation pane on the left over here that kind of shows you where everything is. Okay, so again, what I want to do is I just want to create one more query. This time I'm going to create a query with some numbers in it as well. Sorry, I think the first one did have numbers, but I'm going to create just one more so that you are familiar with it. Again, I'm creating one more query. I'm going to create. I'll go to create wizard. I hope you guys can follow with me as I'm doing these steps. Simple query wizard. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to look at the name again. I'm going to look at the ticket number, and I'm going to look at, let's say, first entry and class as well. So I've got 4 selected fields. I mean, you could select every single field if you wanted to, but obviously a query is trying to draw out specific information. So I've selected 4 fields over here, and I've left out the balance number and ID. I'm going to click on next. So I've selected those fields. You can go back and forward, just by the way. So if you've left out something, or if you want to go back, it is possible to go back. Oh, sorry, the one step that I left out over here was the table. I don't want to select from this query. I want to select from the table. I've selected my fields. I've clicked on next. I'm going to give it detail of every single field and record. And then I'm going to open, or let's click on modify this time. We'll click on modify the query in the design, and then click on finish. And now you notice that something else comes up over here. We are currently in the design view of a query now. So instead of opening it up in the datasheet view, we are now in the design tab over here, and we are currently in the design view, which we are going to look at in a few seconds. So I'm going to go back to my datasheet view, and you'll notice that it has appeared over here. The name, ticket number, first entry, and class is all there based on the query that I created. I'm going to close it. I am going to rename it to, what was it, name, class, I think it was ticket number, and what was the other one? Just leave it like that for now. And first entry was the other one. Just notice that you can't actually rename the database when it's open. You have to close it first. Rename and first entry. Okay, so this is the database that I just created over here. Sorry, the query that I just created over here. So now what we are going to do, we have just created 2 queries over here, and I kind of hope that you're getting the hang of creating queries and what they look like and where to kind of find things. What we are going to do now is we are going to look at the design view of the query. So instead of now looking at the datasheet view, which we are currently in, we are going to click on the design view. So the design view is the section of work that we covered on Friday. We're going to look at the datasheet view and the design view over here. So we are currently, as you can see, in the design view. Just to run through the steps, if I want to navigate between those two views, I click on the Home tab. I scroll to the left. You can see the view over there. I'll either select datasheet view. If I select that, everything remains exactly the same. Or if I click on design view, it opens up over here. Now you'll notice at the bottom, you've got your design view, and you've got a couple of more options available over here. This is essentially my query that I created. This is this one over here. Sorry, this is my query that I created over here. It's got the name, it's got the class over here. You can see it's got the ticket number and it's got the first entry. What you can do here in your design view is you've got a couple of different options over here. For now, the only thing that you really need to know is how to kind of navigate between the view and possibly select the run button. But don't worry too much about the ribbon at the top just yet. We'll get into that at a later stage. All that you need to focus on for now is this bottom section of the query. So you'll notice that I have got the name field over here. I've got the ticket number field over here. I've got the first entry field over here, and I've got the class field over here. You'll notice that they are labeled over here on the left-hand panel. So I've got the field, I've got the table that it appears from, where the information was drawn from. I've got the sort button, I've got the show option, the show, the criteria, and the or. What we are going to do now is we are going to focus on how to kind of use these and how to kind of manipulate the data as well from the design tab, from the design view of our query. So the query that we are currently on is the name, class, ticket number. I'm just going to expand that a little bit, and first entry query. That is the query that I am currently editing in my design view. So I'm just going to repeat that so that we kind of take it all in. We are currently editing the query called the name, class, ticket number, and first entry in my design view. So you'll notice over here that all of the fields that are present over here were selected in my query. Okay, what I can do from here is I can edit my query. So for example, if you made a mistake and you added the name field, but you actually wanted to edit, or you actually wanted to add the ID field, you can change it over here like I just did. So I'm just going to go back over there and I'm going to select the name field again. And now you can see how to kind of change the fields that are going to be present within your query. So if I want to add another field over here, I can add, for example, ID that's not present, and I can put it in there. So let's just take this out, for example. Let's say this one over here, and I want to add ID over here, and I want to go to run. So I'm going to run my query over here, and my query opens up again into my datasheet view, and you'll notice that the ID is now present. What I can do again is go back to my design view, and you can see that that one is present over there. If I want to remove ID, I can just click on the show button over here, and I'm going to run my query again, and you'll notice now that ID does not appear in my datasheet view. Just going to kind of run through that again to make sure that everyone is on board. In my datasheet view currently, I'm looking at a query that I just edited. I'm going to go from my datasheet view into my design view, and I'm going to edit the query that I'm currently on. So the query that I first created was the name, ticket number, first entry, and class query. That's the query that I just created. However, I've now made a mistake, and what I'd like to do is I'd like to add the ID field into this query. So I'm going to click on show, I'm going to run, and then the ID field appears in my query. I hope that's kind of made sense. It might be a little bit tricky to initially get, but the more we practice, yeah, the better it gets. Any questions on that? I'm just going to go into the chat. If anyone has a question, please feel free to post a question into the chat, something that you don't understand. If you'd like me to repeat something, I know that it is a bit of a a new section of work and we may not understand it initially, but please feel free to ask me a question or tell me to repeat something. I'm happy to repeat it. Okay. Yeah, as I go, yeah, just more than welcome to post something in the chat. Okay. So I've currently just looked at the fields, the tables. Just a reminder that if you do have another table over here, you can also select from that table over there. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to kind of deselect every one of these except for the name, and let's see what appears when I click on the run button. The run button is basically a button that allows you to open up the query in the datasheet view. Over here, you'll notice that it performs the actions specified in the query. So I'm going to run it, and you'll notice now that only the names appear in my query. Okay, if I go back to my design view over here, I'm going to click on the show option over here. These are all related to the show option. It's basically show, unshow, or basically hide and unhide. I'm going to run it again, and all my fields will be present in my datasheet view. Okay, let's go back to my design view. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the sort button, and then after that, I'll get to the question that Michaela had. The sort button allows us to sort the data just like we did with the sorting and the filtering. What I can do now, this, however, is a permanent sort. So if I click on ascending over here, it's going to sort out the name field in an ascending manner. And I'll click on run, and you'll notice that names are now sorted in an ascending manner. Let me just put a couple of letters in over here just to kind of there we go. And let's just test it out again. So if I go to my view, design view, select it in an ascending manner, and then run it, you'll notice that all the A's are at the top, and then it goes from that downwards over there. See, this is a permanent, something permanent that you've done. So I'm going to go back to my design view again. I'm going to click on not sorted. Let's sort out my ticket number from an ascending manner. I'm going to run it, and it's sorted out tickets over there, 12901, the smallest to the largest over there. And then you notice that you don't have the remove sort option over there because what you've done in the query is a permanent one. So I'm going to sort it out in a descending manner, run it. Now you'll notice that the highest number is at the top instead of the lowest number. Okay, I'm going to go back to my design view. I'm going to click on not sorted, and then I'm going to click on maybe first entry, or let's do name and then a descending order. And you'll notice that the last letter of the alphabet is at the top, and the A's are all the way down at the bottom. Okay, that is my sorting option over here. I'm just going to put it as unsorted. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to search for specific criteria. So this is the question that Michaela had. She said, can you search for a specific name within a query? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my criteria to search for a specific name. Let's just go back to my datasheet view and look for the names that I have. Look for Sean, Derek, Alan, Simon. Let's look for Simon. So I'm going to go to design view. I'm going to set my criteria to Simon, and I'm just going to type it in over there. And you'll notice that when I click just underneath it, it should appear automatically in inverted commas. You'll notice over there that I'm just going to do it again so that you see. All I'm going to do is I'm going to type in Simon, and immediately afterwards it appears in quotation marks by itself. And I'm going to run it, and you'll notice that in my datasheet view, only the name Simon, ticket number, and his information appears over there. I'm just going to do one more example so that you see how I did it. I'm going to go back to my design view, and this time I'm going to search for, let's let's say Paul. And I'm going to run it. And you'll notice that I did not have a Paul in my table. Let's go back over here, and I'm going to search for Sean. I'm going to click underneath it. It automatically puts it in quotation marks. And then I'm going to run it. And you'll notice that Sean appears over there. Okay, this is a way to take a query and to look for specific information within that criteria. Let's go back over here to my design view. I'm going to delete the criteria over there. I'm going to go to class. Let's just have a look at the classes that I have. Go to the data sheet view. I've got 12D, 12A, 12C, 12D, 12D, 12B as well. And I'm going to go to my design view, and I'm going to search for 12A. Just as a question, you guys don't have to answer it, you can as well. But what happens if I search for 12A over here? What do you think is going to happen? You can answer the question by yourself, or you can put it into the chat if you want. If I run the query over here and I've typed in 12A over there, you'll notice that all of the people in 12A appear over here. Let's go back to design view, and I'll change that to 12B. And I click underneath that, and I'll run it, and all the people in 12B now appear. So the design view of the queries is a very, very important section to understand, and to kind of know how to navigate and to kind of know how to work. You will be asked questions in your exam and your tests that specifically ask for information that requires you to edit a query within a table. Most of the times you won't actually be asked to create a new query. However, you will be asked to create or to edit a query within a database. Especially for matric finals and stuff, you might be asked to create 1 or 2 queries, but you will definitely be asked to edit a query. That is a given. You need to know the section. You're going to be tested on it. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to touch on 2 criteria, I guess, keywords that you do need to know. I'm going to go back to my data sheet, and I'm going to just look for specific information. Let's add a field over here. It says just going to change this one over here to Sean as well. I'm going to go back to my design view, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to look for 2 fields, 2 records within the same field that are actually different. So what I want to do is I want to search for, let's say, Zelia. I want to search for that. However, I also want to search for somebody else. However, they now have a different name. The keyword that you have to put in over there is that word and. So I'm going to type in and over there, and I'm going to say Sean, and I'm going to click over there, and what should happen is there should be 2 quotation marks around Zelia and a quotation mark around Sean, and that keyword and is going to remain by itself, because that is the keyword that allows you to search for 2 records that are different but within the same field. So you'll notice over there that Zelia is now within quotation marks, and Sean is also within quotation marks. And if I run my query, oh, it's actually not working. Sorry, it should be or. If I run my query, it's got Zelia and Sean. Sorry, the keyword over there was or. The and is if it's going to have Zelia and Sean in the same record. So I'm going to go back to my design view and just look at that or word. That's the key word, Zelia or Sean over there. You can set criteria under multiple fields. So you can say, let's just go back to our data sheet view, and Sean over here is in 12C and Sean over here is in 12C. So I'm going to set my design view over here, and I'm going to set the class over here to 12C. And now it should come up with that over there as well. Zelia won't appear because she's not in 12C. Okay. The word key, the keyword over there is or. That, remember, that searches for specific record within a field that is different. So again, I'm going to search for Alan over here, and now it should give me, just going to delete that one, I'm going to run it, and it should give me all of those that I searched for. Okay, we've got a few more minutes left of the meeting. I know that it's kind of new work, and possibly it's quite difficult to take it all in at the moment. So I'm just going to ask you, if you do have any questions, if you want me to repeat anything or to look at a section again, or if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask me now. I know we only got a few minutes left, but I'm happy to take any questions that you may have, or something that you want me to repeat or explain again. Okay, if there aren't any questions, then what we're going to focus on tomorrow is we're going to look at input masks. We're going to look at validation rules, validation texts, and then, oh, I see there's a question over here. Please, I'm not sure, Marcus, if that is a question or if you'd like me to do another section again, just, yeah, send a message to the chat. I'm happy to cover this work again if you want me to look at it again. We can kind of go through the lesson again tomorrow, or if you want me to kind of continue with the work, I'm happy to do it tomorrow again, just to kind of reinforce what we just learned today. If you do have, if you don't have any questions, or if you'd like to contact me, please find my email address over here at aflint@newtonhouse.co.za. I'm happy to take any of your questions, and we can discuss any matters that you may be struggling with. Thanks so much, guys, for being here, and I hope that you guys continue to learn and grow in Access. And yeah, just give me a shout if you're struggling with any section. Thank you, guys. Oh, sorry, please confirm. Marcus, there we go, I got a question. The query is used to display specific data in a field, while a form is used to display one set of data for all fields. So basically what a form is, you got it right there with the query, that's 100%. What the query does is what the form does is it allows users to enter specific records only for one specific field. So it's basically like a user-friendly way of entering or capturing data. We'll look at forms again. I'm happy to kind of have a look at it again. However, like, you know, when you have a huge table in front of you like this, like the one that we have over here, it's sometimes difficult to kind of go through every single record and then insert it over here without actually having a look at these kind of fields over here. So essentially what the form does is it creates a space where there's a name, and then you insert the name right next to it, and then the field, and you insert the field right next to it, instead of having everybody else's data in there, which may kind of confuse some people. So the question that you asked was kind of correct. Yeah, I hope that kind of answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, Marcus, just let me know if you do have any other questions. I'm happy to answer them.
All right, that's
Cool.